on the broadcast is India's increased deployment along the line of actual control in eastern Ladakh, and especially in the Depsang plains and DBO. So we've been hearing about Pangong So and Patrol Point 14, 15 and 17 Alpha so far, but this time there is increased deployment further north. In fact, this is close to the Karakoram pass. This is India's border with China, like the line of actual control, and this is where in the Depsang plains now we hear of more armor, artillery and infantry combat vehicles being inducted along with more infantry troops. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Manjeet Singh Negi breaking this big story on India Today. Manjeet, 5 rounds of border talks. Instead of tension coming down, is it now likely to increase between India and China, especially given China's actions across the Depsang plains?
Well, Gaurav, Indian Army has deployed more than 15,000 troops along the almost an entire armored division in the Depsang and the Daulat Oldi area to prevent any misadventure by the Chinese army. And several armored regiments have been moved from the plains and adjoining area to check the Chinese army, which has also brought its tank and other armored vehicles there. And the armored regiment have been spread all along the area from the Karakoram pass and the other adjoining area of the line of actual control.
Okay, I'll get you much more on that story, but Manjeet, stay with me. I want to quickly bring into this conversation Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni. He's former Chief of Staff of the Leh Corps. He knows this area like the back of his hand. Also with us is Ambassador G. Parthasarthi. He's India's former Ambassador, High Commissioner to Pakistan, but someone who has studied China very well, knows China very well. But General Kulkarni, if I may come to you first, so far we've been hearing about what's happening at Pangong So, at Galwan, at Patrol Point 15, 17 Alpha, but now China seems to be mounting additional pressure near Patrol Point 10, 11, 12, 13 in that area in the Depsang plains, also closer to the Karakoram post or Karakoram pass. What do you make of this, sir?
Gaurav, at the very outset, let me tell you, China will continue to do what it is doing. We have to checkmate China everywhere. We have to stand firm. We have to hold our ground. We've got to make China realize that it is messing around and it is bound to get it back very badly. If that be so, this is China's tactics. Why would it want to do what it is doing? It is doing to pressurize India. It wants India to toe Chinese line. It wants that in the entire South Asia, there should be none that can stand against China. Today, India alone is able to stand, and the very fact that India stands, I think the entire reading of China has gone amiss, and therefore, just not Pangong So. You will find in talks, it just might start thinning out tomorrow itself from Pangong So. But it will continue pressurizing Depsang. You've heard as it is in Lipu Lake what it is wanting to do. You see all of it in other places. China will pressurize India as much as it can. But we must stand firm. We must hold our ground. We must be able to give a fitting reply. The fear in China is very necessary. A checkmating China everywhere is very, very necessary.
Fair enough.
Only that will instill fear.
Fair enough. So instill fear. And do you instill fear by just being defensive in your approach, by putting in more troops just to protect your line of actual control? Or, Ambassador Parthasarthi, is it time for India to go on the offensive diplomatically, militarily or economically? The government should know that best. But is it time for India to pay China back in the same coin as quickly as possible?
Look. China is globally and more important across Asia on the defense side. You've had 10 ASEAN countries join together and insist they should respect the law of the seas. They are challenging their claims on their maritime boundaries. This is a time, therefore, that China is going to at least be seen to be acting tough. And one of the reasons for that is really our success, that we have now formed the Quad. We can block them on the entry to the Indian Ocean. More importantly, they're facing this from the ASEAN. And the important point is India and the US and a large part of the world are backing ASEAN. So China, as its ambassador said, and I was there at that meeting, they refused to even define where the line of control lies. So I think you should be prepared for a hardening of this position. There are two aspects to it. We should patiently negotiate with them as long as we can take it along. But let's also not forget the fact that at some stage or the other, the snows will set in. And let's see if there is a time we can take advantage of it. Because I said, after I heard the Chinese ambassador said that they're not going to define the line of control or the line of actual control, their position is hardening. I think it was very stupid of us to expect that they would leave Pangong So or cool off on Depsang. They are going to squeeze up to the Karakoram Pass beyond Daulat Beg Oldi. And let's not forget one thing. Karakoram Pass was really to be Pakistan's border with Tibet, with China. What really happened was the Pakistanis took their line of control to the Karakoram Pass. We moved it northwards to Siachen. So this is something which is a situation they are faced with, that Karakoram Pass is open to us and not to their friend Pakistan. So yes, they are going to keep this up.
So you're both saying that India needs to be more aggressive. We need to be more aggressive.
We have the world behind us now. You have the West, you have ASEAN. And
absolutely, but this should now reflect in action on ground.
Affectionately to the Iranians. You can be sure also of a good Arab friends backing us. So I think diplomatically we're doing fine. Keep the heat on, and most importantly, hit them where they least are vulnerable. Hit them on the coronavirus, that it is really the Wuhan virus. We have no business in India to
we need to hit and we need to hit hard. Fair enough. Sir, Ambassador, stay with me for a moment. Right now, let me get our viewers the latest. Yes, let me get our viewers the latest on India-China border talks. So even after multiple rounds of talks at all levels, there have been 5 rounds of talks between the core commanders of India and China. There isn't clear forward movement on disengagement and de-escalation at multiple friction points. Of course, Pangong So remains the most crucial. Now Depsang is another one that's becoming rather crucial. China, of course, says that it's up to its claim line. India has made it absolutely clear there will be no compromise on territory. India insists on complete disengagement.
Two and a half months after the bloody Galwan Valley clash, the situation at the line of actual control still remains tense. On Sunday, the 5th round of Corps Commander level talks were held at Moldo on the Chinese side. India made it crystal clear that there won't be any compromise on territory and stressed on restoration of status quo ante in eastern Ladakh.
Actually, it has come to a point where we should look into what is the possible Chinese intent rather than talking about whether they're going to be going back from the ingress points or not. And the Chinese intent, a reflection of that can be obtained from the location of their major formations in depth, which have not really gone back, I would say.
The Chinese army had pulled back from the Galwan Valley and certain other friction points, but the total withdrawal of troops has not happened in the finger areas on Pangong So.
The progress on disengagement in eastern Ladakh continues at a very slow pace. It appears that the Chinese forces are reluctant to move back from the ingress which they have made in Pangong So and Depsang. This is the area which was patrolled by India and China up to their respective perception lines.
China's claims that disengagement in most friction points is complete, but India maintains not much has changed at Gogra and Pangong So.
Recently, China and India have kept up close communication through military and diplomatic channels. They have held 4 rounds of military commander level talks and 3 meetings on the mechanism of consultation and coordination on border issues. The frontline troops of both sides have completed disengagement at most locations. The situation is now continuing to head towards the direction of easing and cooling down.
On the contrary, the Chinese have been enhancing their strength, bringing additional boats to the friction areas of the Pangong Lake and setting up new shelters to accommodate more troops.
Even as the dialogue between the two sides continues at the diplomatic and military level, there are still no signs of the deadlock ending anytime soon. The army wants to make sure it can continue with its current deployment in eastern Ladakh, preparing for the harsh winter in a few months from now. Abhishek Bhalla in New Delhi for India Today.
I want to quickly bring in India Today's Abhishek Bhalla for more on the story. So Abhishek, India says disengage, no compromise on restoration of status quo ante. China refuses to do that. What's the way forward? Is the ball then out of the court of the military commanders and now in the court of the diplomats or perhaps political leadership?
5 rounds of military talks have happened, but it seems that the stalemate is going to continue. There is still no indication that the deadlock would end immediately. We've been hearing that China is adamant and is being extremely rigid when it comes to the Pangong Lake area. And there have been reports, there is satellite imagery to suggest very clearly that China has prepared for the long haul, and it seems that they are looking at the winter from now onwards. But having said that, the Indian Army also is making sure that the current deployment, which is anywhere between 35 to 40,000, will continue for a very, very long time. It could mean 2, 3, 4 months, and that's the reason why it seems that several other levels of talks, be it at the diplomatic level or at the military level, will still continue. While there has been some disengagement in at least 2 areas, that is Galwan, Patrol Point 14, as well as Patrol Point 15, but Gogra, which is Patrol Point 17A, and Pangong still remains extremely tricky.
Okay. General Kulkarni, this disengagement or thinning out of troops as we look at it, isn't this rather, it's just for sure. They can come anytime they want in a matter of hours. It will take us longer to get to the petrol points once again, because China is anyway perturbed about the roads that we are building in that area, about the bridges that we are building in this area, and they've already done that. So how do we counter them by deploying perhaps in some area where they would be very uncomfortable?
Gaurav, you're right. I think right now, of course, there's international awakening against China. China, a wolf warrior, China cannot become a hyena. And we have to ensure that China must be tamed. There is no denying the fact. But all these talks, in my opinion, are only to make their winter stay a little more comfortable as long as there is no tension for the troops. They don't want what has happened to them in Galwan to happen should they confront the Indian troops the way they are. So all these talks are just to ensure that it is a long haul and that they don't want tension, they don't want firing to take place, but the pressure will be continued to be built on India. Yes, talks must continue, economic sanctions must continue, diplomatic engagements must continue, but from a position of strength. They must not at any point of time be given a feeling that, yes, India is likely to give in something. Nothing. China is not a country to be trusted. China is to be confronted from a position of strength. And that position of strength only comes the way we are. We have to give it to them, a mirror image everywhere.
No, but mirror image everywhere means that they have come into our perception of line of actual control and we are deploying on our side. Why can't we be on what they may think is their side, deploy there? We've done that in the past and then talk about coming back. Ambassador Parthasarathy, is that possible, or are we still, so concerned about our image, about being good boys, that we don't want to go aggressive on China, whether it's diplomatically or economically or perhaps even militarily?
Well, I think I remember when I was in the Prime Minister's office, General Sundarji did just that in Sundarangsu. He moved and deployed north of where they were deployed. This is really a thing for the higher army leadership to say. It would not be fair for me to comment. But I just want to say this. The more you yield to the Chinese, the more they will eat you up. I cannot, for the love of it, understand why in the fight in Galwan, we did not make the casualties public. Did we owe it to the Chinese that we remain quiet? And if so, why? So I think there is a time when we get too diffident on these things. I mean, the world knows what happened, but let the people of China know. Put it on the publicity, on whatever you want. But we are being apologetic, and that is something which beats me. It really sickens me. The other thing is that the fact of the matter is that we should leave it to the army. It's really for them to decide. You need backing of air power, work it out. But they must know that they cannot go by what their ambassador said, that they refuse to delineate or agree to describe what the line of actual control means. They're just using that to keep nibbling away and nibbling away at us.
Let me then take this to General Kulkarni. General Kulkarni, time and again we hear that the Chinese don't want to lose face. The Chinese don't want to be seen as losing face, and we are so happy to oblige them. One, why do we oblige them? Two, Ambassador Parthasarathi says the ball is in the army's court. When I speak to army leadership, they say the ball is in the government's court. It's for the government to decide what is to be done. In all of this, is China actually making us look weak at this point of time? When it continues 3 months later, China's still between finger 8 and finger 4. It's also making incursions in Depsang plains, and we are saying we'll see what happens in winters. Why can't we not go somewhere where China will think it's very uncomfortable for them for us to be in that territory?
See, Gaurav, it would not be fair to discuss what the army's plans are. Well, they would have plans. I'm sure they know what is to be done should China cross its limits. We know exactly what is to be done, and the government would do what it needs to do. But yes, at this point of time, we are not actually wanting to get so aggressive that, look, just get into their territory. This is the line, the LAC, the perception where it is. Now, can you imagine? We've been patrolling till finger 8 till May 5th. They have been allowing us to come almost till finger 8. We've been not allowing them, but they've been forcing themselves to come to finger 4. So this kind of a thing was going on for years on, and what has now resulted in this, they're just coming and occupy. This fait accompli business which China has been wanting to do it is nothing but trying to bully. It is wanting to show that yes, it can do what it wants to do. It is these small incursions, call it salami, call it intrusions, call it whatever be it. So I am sure China needs now to be given a real...
You're absolutely right, a real response, because we are saying that, isn't this beyond our limits already? Shouldn't we as a nation send out a message? And we are still having them sponsor, Chinese companies sponsor Indian cricket matches, which is something that we'll also debate on another day. But there's one more aspect that we would want our viewers to know about. India Today's open source intelligence team has analyzed satellite images from Google Earth over the past 8 months. And this is to study changes that are taking place at a very crucial airbase at Kashgar. Take a look at these images that we are about to show you. Satellite images show construction of underground blast pens and vaults months before the India-China standoff started in Ladakh. The question is, how long was China preparing for this? What's the bigger game plan? And what are China's real intentions in this region?
A blunt refusal to cut its nuclear arsenals. Just last month, China refused to join the talks with the United States and Russia aimed at controlling the world's most destructive weapons.
I can assure you that if the US says that they are ready to come down to the Chinese level, China will be happy to participate the next day. So, but actually, we know that that's not going to happen.
But there's apparently more to China's excuse about the US than meets the eye. Our authoritative, open source assessment of deployments at a key airbase in Xinjiang casts renewed attention to Beijing's overall nuclear policy. Satellite images we analyzed show construction of an underground nuclear vault months before the India-China standoff started in Ladakh. And all this is happening at China's Kashgar Air Base, located at a striking distance from the Karakoram Pass and Pangong Lake. A facility for civilian and military use, Kashgar Airport has recently undergone rapid expansion. The satellite imagery from July depicts as many as 12 hardened aircraft shelters. These are reinforced hangars that are designed to resist nuclear strikes. But a closer scrutiny of images from 8 months ago has revealed their inside belly. Our open source analysis has found these hardened aircraft shelters are built over a special vault, possibly a hardened bunker for storing nuclear warheads.
These are underground vault systems that are meant for safety and security of nuclear weapons. They also provide overhead protection when the weapons are being prepared for use. It shows Chinese sinister designs in this area, especially against India. India must ensure the safety and security of its existing strategic forces.
China has also placed 6 of its H-6 bombers at the Kashgar Air Base. Equipped with high-tech sensors, engines and weapons, these warplanes are the Chinese version of a twin-engine Soviet bomber. China has not been party to any past agreement to limit its nuclear arsenals. Beijing has challenged the United States to first reduce its own. The Chinese military currently has about 320 nuclear weapons compared to at least 5,000 each of the United States and Russia.
China's no-first-use nuclear policy has often been doubted by many analysts across the world. And now China's stubborn attitude as far as a dialogue is concerned is even more worrying. While several levels of talks have taken place at the military as well as the diplomatic level, still the stalemate continues. Abhishek Bhalla.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.